talk to James Melville about this. He's an anti-lockdown campaigner and commentator. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julie. You well?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, probably doing better than Nicola Sturgeon right now. When she made that shock resignation statement in February, she said that, you know, same along the lines of Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand. Basically, you know, it's been a very, very busy few years. She was kind of worn out. It was time to move on. We soon learned there were other issues relating to SNP party finance, police investigations. We had the trans round, everything else. But the interesting thing is she is someone who was largely thought to have done a good job by the public when it came to handling the COVID pandemic, when actually the stats say she did an even worse job than the English government. How has she got away with it?
Yeah, she got off scot-free, excuse the bad pun. But, I mean, the same problems are there. I mean, my concern with the COVID inquiries, I'm worried that it won't look at COVID in the round. Yeah. There seems to be sort of manoeuvrings that it's all about, did we lock down quick enough, or hard enough, and so on, when actually we need to be talking about the collateral damages, the economic impact, whether the measures were effective or not, and a lot of the measures weren't effective. And lest we forget, in Scotland, she always announced, maybe a day, 2 days after Johnson's announcements, it was a little bit harder, it was a little bit more draconian, a little bit more professional and so on. But they went much further. Vaccine passports in Scotland, you know, much further than what's happening at Westminster. And I think there is an irony, and I say this as someone who supports Scottish independence, there's an irony that during that COVID era, what the Scottish government was showing was a diametric opposite to freedom. Yeah. If you want freedom, it should be freedom for the people, not freedom for politicians to put in place loads of draconian measures.
It was, did you say, the sort of virtue signaling of, well, they're not doing enough, I'm going to do enough. She had those daily press conferences. I mean, she had more than, I think, Boris Johnson actually did, continued them far longer. And as you say, far more really, really tough measures. But even when, for instance, you look at, say, death rates in care homes because of people being released from NHS hospitals into care homes without being tested for COVID and not enough PPE and the like, their death rating in Scottish care homes was higher than it was in England when you look at the testing, when you look at the death rates. Even despite all the supposedly tough measures like vaccine passports, closing the border, forcing children to wear masks in classroom, which outrageously, and I would say criminally, the British government decided to do they did it to children, not for, did it to children, torturing our children unnecessarily. They knew it wasn't necessary, it wasn't desirable, they knew it was harmful, they did it anyway because Nicola Sturgeon had done it in Scotland. They didn't want a political row about it, and we discovered that from those WhatsApps from Matt Hancock. But there's nothing to show for any of these measures, and yet, if you do look at public polling, people think she did a good job. Why?
I think it was all about optics and presentation more than anything else. And I think at the time, Nicola Sturgeon's approval ratings in Scotland were high. You know, she does give off the impression of professionals in a lot of ways, but that's in the past. We need to look at the present. You know, their measures were more draconian. There was obviously the care home scandal that needs to be addressed in terms of tragic loss of life. There needs to be a discussion about why we had certain measures that weren't just draconian, they were illiberal and they were cruel. You've touched on what happened with the kids. I agree with you. These whole kids being off school and wearing masks was absolutely appalling. And we're still seeing the effect of sort of mental health issues connected to kids.
Absolutely.
There's also vaccine passports. There needs to be a strong discussion about that.
People lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you've been a fantastic campaigner and communicator on this issue, and I so appreciate everything you've done. And I do think it's important that we say we don't forget, and that we do actually keep talking about this. Thank you very much indeed, James Melville. Wish we'd had a bit more time.